Hey boys and let's face it, the only guys that ever watch my videos. And yeah, it's been a while since I've done a video, and let me give you a quick rundown. I started two projects. I wasn't happy with the final product at all for either of them, so I trashed them despite being 99% done. I want to return to something I know. Every blank ranked, and as you know by the title, I'm ranking every ending in the Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable is a great game, and well, it's not really a game. It's more of an interactive story, and that's totally cool and fine. I'm going to be ranking the endings by how funny they are, among other factors, but mostly by how funny it is. According to the wiki, yeah, the Stanley Parable actually has a wiki, believe it or not. There are 19 endings. I searched to see if there are more, but that's the number I'm sticking with. Keep in mind that this is pure opinion. Don't think that this video is the end-all or anything. And I'll keep it condensed to one part, and hopefully I'll go through with other projects in the future. But without further ado, let's delve into the zany antics that is hidden within the Stanley Parable. Oh, and by the way, spoiler warning. This is the only ending I won't get footage for by myself. I'm sorry, but it's not worth 4 hours of pushing buttons to accomplish this myself. Serious, 4 hours. Don't get me wrong, it's totally something I'd expect this game to do. This game just does stuff like that. So I'll pull a video I found on YouTube for this ending, and I'll put the channel username in the bottom left corner and also link the video in the description if you're interested in watching it. Basically, to get this ending, you just disobey everything the narrator says until you get to the cargo lift. While on the lift, jump onto the catwalk and further disobey everything until the narrator says you have to get to the baby and fire game. You literally push a button to keep the baby out of the fire. If the baby reaches the fire, you lose and it'll move on to another ending. But after 2 hours of pushing the button, no joke, the narrator will introduce another game where you have to save a puppy from the pool of piranhas. After 2 more hours of running back and forth pushing both buttons to save the baby and the dog, you get a white screen with some weird text. Some of this text includes, "We will dance and eat and sin." The sin part really got me concerned. But basically this ending is in last place because frankly it's not worth it. Hell, nothing would be worth it. So Swung Artifact 1, thank you for sacrificing 4 hours of your life to grace us with the art ending. This one is strange, and the reason why it's so low is how short this ending actually is. Basically, you disobey the narrator until you get to the cargo lift, and once you're on the cargo lift, you jump off to your death. Literally, you think I'm joking. Listen to the narrator's little epilogue after you fall.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
And it ends there. You start over. The narrator basically just shames you, which is understandable. If you weren't aware of this ending, there's a good chance you'd accidentally stumble upon it, because I sure did. To be fair, I am terrible at video games, so maybe that's just a me thing, but it's whatever. This ending is kind of a playoff of the powerful ending. Basically, to obtain this ending, when you step on the cargo lift to activate it going up, you quickly jump back onto the floor you were just on. There's no way to advance the story at this point, nor is there a way to go back to where you were. So the narrator basically encourages you to jump off and end the game.
Oh, well, look who's got cold feet. Sorry to break it to you, Stanley, but that lift isn't coming back. You'd best either get comfortable right here on this platform, or test your luck by jumping to the floor below. You know what? Looking at it now, it's not that far to the bottom floor. I bet you can make it. Whoops. Looks like I was wrong. How clumsy of me.
I found this ending to be pretty funny myself because the narrator basically just tells you to kill yourself. I guess I have a dark sense of humor, but I put this ending above the powerful ending just because I thought it was more entertaining, in my opinion. This ending just gives me anxiety. This is the first ending that is technically a full playthrough of what the game has to offer. Basically, all you have to do to achieve this ending is to follow exactly what the narrator says until you reach the end. Press the on button to activate the system input, but that sets off the detonation sequence. So the next few minutes is you frantically trying to stop the timer, but I'm telling you now, it's futile. No matter what you do, you're gonna die with the ending. It made my anxiety go through the roof the first time I played it, but at least the narrator basically reveals all the secrets in this game, basically taunting you. On my first playthrough of this ending, I gave up when there were like 30 seconds left, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to deal with timers, so I just stared at it, the timer, and just let it run out, because I hate timers in games. I seem to mess up at every turn when there's a timer in a mission of any given game, so like, that's why I stick with LEGO games, because, you know, they're not really time oriented, you know. This ending is just weird. There's no guarantee you'll get this in every playthrough of the game. You'll know when you get the whiteboard ending. Basically, when you start the game, the office will be blue, rather than the yellow beige, and the layout of the office will be a lot different. When the office is blue, you can open Office 426 door. After opening the door, you see a whiteboard saying, "Welcome to the whiteboard ending," as well as a little message in the bottom right corner with a command that will sound like a dog bark every time you click something. I won't use that command myself because it's going to drive me crazy, but I like how the developers added in this little secret ending that provides nothing important to the game. This ending probably doesn't deserve to be this high, but I just admire how stupid it is. All you have to do to achieve this ending is to close the door to your office at the start of the game and stare at your computer screen. Eventually, the narrator says some witty dialogue.
The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
And the game resets. The idea of Stanley refusing to investigate and rather sitting at his mundane job is pretty funny, especially when the whole idea of this game is him under mind control. I don't know, that's just me. Like the whiteboard ending, this ending takes a bit of work to achieve. To get this ending, enable the console and properties, and when the game starts, pause it and type SV_cheats space 1. And this will teleport you to the serious room, where the narrator will have a stern talk with you. I like this because there's no way to mess around in the Stanley Parable cheats-wise. The developers have pretty much every base covered. Another funny thing about the ending is if you type SV cheats 1 in the console again, it will trigger more disbelief in the narrator's voice. I just always found this ending pretty clever, I guess. But something I question is the narrator's obsession of serious tables.
That table, tables of tables and tables. All tables, tables.
This ending is a bit sad, if you ask me. It's also another ending where I would never have found out about it if I had not looked at the wiki. The escape pod ending. To get this ending, you follow everything the narrator says until you get to the boss's office. Then this next part is tricky. You have to walk far enough through the boss's door to trigger to start to close, but you have to go back before the door fully closes. Doing this will cut off the narrator, making it so he can't speak anymore. Now you go back to your office, except there's a door next to your office that is now open. Go through that door and follow the hallway until you find an escape pod, which ends the game. You may be asking, how is this sad? Well, the narrator is no longer present. But there's a sign on the way to the escape pod that says Stanley and narrator must be present, meaning that Stanley will not escape the game. It's pretty sad to me, but I guess it's pretty clever in the sense that you need the narrator the one time you finally get away from him. This isn't technically an ending because it doesn't restart the game, but an ending nonetheless. Along the way on regular playthroughs, there's a broom closet, and you basically step inside and wait there as the narrator tells you to get out and continue the story. Eventually, the narrator does some serious fourth wall breaking and assumes the player, or you, died, and says that a person nearby should replace the player.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed on the keyboard. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead.
After that, if you leave and re-enter the broom closet, the narrator says some more remarks about how stupid you are. And after that, if you restart the game and get in the broom closet again, the narrator shames you once more, and then, alas, after a third time, the broom closet is boarded up. I thought this was really stupid, but also funny. Again, it's not technically an ending, but it should be. It's gosh darned clever if you ask me. This is one of the weirdest endings out there, and it causes a fair amount of work compared to other endings. To achieve this ending, you have to go to 5 different computers and clicking on them, and be sure to restart the game after each one you click. After the 5th computer, you are teleported to Heaven, which is just a bunch of different colored buttons in a white room. Meanwhile, a choir sings Push the Buttons. Yeah, like I said, it's pretty weird. Very, very, very strange ending. I guess I just like how many weird endings the developers stocked away in this game. I like how the endings aren't just determined by what doors you go through, but as some take work to achieve, such as this one. This map is really clever. In fact, the narrator himself says that that's what you're thinking, so it must be true, right? All that is needed to achieve this ending is in the room right outside Stanley's office. You kind of have to hit the exact right spot to get on the desk and then duck to be able to get out the window nearby. This will trigger the narrator talking about how clever the dev team was with this ending. Eventually he asks you if you're sick of the gag, and if you press yes, he sings a little song for you.
There once was a man named Stanley, who people considered so manly.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. There's no way to get back up, so you have to restart, but it's pretty nice. This ending seems to drag out for a bit too long because it's one of the few endings that technically is a full playthrough, as in the game restarts itself, but it's whatever. To get this ending, follow everything the narrator says, but go down the stairs to the boss's office instead of up. This will trigger a long speech by the narrator, basically giving you an existential crisis. Meanwhile, you run through the same 4 rooms, basically in a circle. I like the idea of Stanley frantically running through the rooms that have no end, slowly going insane, but it seemed to go on for a bit too long in my opinion. But suddenly the perspective switches to a woman named Mariella who is going to work. She encountered Stanley, who was apparently running in the street shouting, and he eventually fell onto the ground, dead. And this reveals that with this ending, the whole game that is the Stanley Parable is just an illusion in a crazy Stanley's head. I just really like that type of twist, I guess. And that's why it got its place as number 8 on the list. I like this ending because it involves multiple restarts, the first of which taking you to the monitor room prematurely. The narrator tells you about how you shouldn't be here yet and eventually restarts the game. The second time around, the room is messed up and the narrator restarts once more, frustrated. And the third time around, the 2 doors room is a dead end and you must go back. But then, that way is a dead end. So you turn back and end up in an old, suspicious looking building. The narrator restarts once more. The fourth time around, there's the Stanley Parable Adventure Line trademark. You can't forget the trademark, by the way, which guides Stanley through some hallways but eventually leads him to the monitor room, and the narrator gets upset again. The game resets, the Stanley Parable Adventure Line TM is closed off, and Stanley eventually finds the true ending of the confusion ending, which is just the narrator breaking the game, in his words. This ending is thorough and also entertaining, and I like it because the narrator is just as confused as you are, which is expected. I mean, it's called the confusion ending after all. The narrator is so confused that in this ending, spoiler, he finds out that there's someone controlling him in addition to Stanley. On the last restart, both Stanley and the narrator find a screen explaining the confusion ending and that there are supposed to be 8 restarts. The narrator is conflicted by this and refuses to restart. The confusion ending ends with 2 loud buzzers sounding, implying that the power above the narrator is going to rain fire upon them. I'm not sure if the Stanley Parable has a canon ending, but if it does, I hope it's this one. After all the shit the narrator gives you in the other endings, this is some good payback, baby.
So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime...
This ending just creeps me out. The ending is strange, period. To get this ending, take the door on the right and go all the way to the cargo room and ride the cargo lift all the way to the other side. You approach a room containing only a phone. Pick up the phone and you are teleported to what looks like Stanley's apartment, until you see that a mannequin answers the door, who's supposed to be his wife. In this ending, the narrator reveals that the Stanley Parable is all in Stanley's head, which is not unlike the insane ending. As you press more buttons, the empty apartment looks more and more like Stanley's office. The mannequin is what freaks me out. I was pretty startled the first time I saw the mannequin open the door, but I am fond of this ending for being so unlike the others. Yes, I know, the name is very confusing. It's not blank ending, it's Zending, which I think it's called Zending because of the Zen part. The ending is strangely calming, well, at least part of it. To achieve this one, you go on the cargo lift, and once it's moving, jump onto the catwalk and go through the red door. The narrator will lead you to a dome full of stars and calming ambient music. I thought this was very soothing, until you have to walk up a random set of stairs only to fall from the top and land on the ground like 20 feet below. I didn't like this at all, and the narrator didn't like it either. Granted, you are allowed to go back to the relaxing dome any time, but to get the ending, you must go up the stairs and fall to the ground 3 more times until you die. I really pity the narrator because he sounds so sad.
You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy.
I feel really bad about killing myself, but I must do what I must do. No hard feelings, narrator. This ending is by far one of the longest, besides maybe the confusion ending. Do exactly what you did for the phone ending, but unplug the phone instead of answering it. This will trigger a pretty funny little PSA about choices. After this, you go back to the two doors room, but this time you can't trigger any other ending, such as the powerful ending, because there's a fence around the edges of the cargo lift. Not to mention everything is distorted and weird as if it's a glitch. So much so that the narrator is infuriated that the meeting room is all messed up as well. He reveals his whole objective of his story and kind of resets, and you are automatically at the two-door room. You go left and everything seems normal, but when you get to the stairs, you see that the stairs that go down are blocked off, meaning you can't get the insane ending. You also realize once you get to the boss's office that it has a green look instead of velvet color that it has in normal playthroughs. There is a code to get into the secret room, but you have to speak it instead of typing in the code. Obviously you can't do that because you can't talk, and the narrator gets angry again. Again, the game blacks out and your character is teleported to a place above the map, and you are witnessing Stanley in a two-door room. This is the first and only time you get to see Stanley, except for his backside in the insane ending. Meanwhile, the narrator is trying to get Stanley's attention, but Stanley won't respond as the credits of the game roll. My theory is that in this final part of the ending, you are in fact controlling the narrator, which is pretty cool. I like how involved this ending is and how trippy it is, and especially the glitchiness of it all. This is the first ending I came across after I purchased this game. I think a lot of people obtain this ending relatively quickly because all you have to do to get it is to disobey the narrator completely. Go in the left door, pass by the door, jump off the cargo lift onto the catwalk, go through the blue door, and then you get to a place the narrator couldn't render yet, and it's pretty empty. And you take a look on the worldwide leaderboard. Oh look, you're the last. Fail at the baby game, yada yada yada. You get it. But this is where the magic happens. The narrator teleports you to a Minecraft world. I was genuinely surprised when I first played this ending because I thought it was pretty cool. Granted, I'm not a Minecraft fanboy. I haven't played the game in years before you get on my ass about it. But it was nice to see that the developers have the balls to poke at other games. And then after that, you go to a portal-like room. So yeah, that's pretty cool too. But after the narrator talks about you not being interested, you're transported to a very eerie set of hallways. You kind of just wander around until the narrator talks about how Stanley needs him. Anyway, all in all, I really found this ending to be entertaining. It's the first ending I experienced after buying the game, and it got me hooked, trying to find every ending that I can, and what eventually made me interested in making a video that probably only 70 people will watch. This ending is number 2 because of how interesting it is. To get this one, you follow everything the narrator says right up to the entrance of the monitor room. There's a narrow hallway off to the left that says escape with an arrow. It looks pretty sketchy, but just do it. Follow that and you'll end up in some type of cart in an assembly line, and that was about to be crushed by a huge compactor of some sort. But right as you're about to die, time stops and a female narrator replaces the old one, who says farewell to you as you're about to get crushed. The female makes a remark about how you die, about how bones crushing, gross stuff like that, but you drop from the cart, follow a path that ends up in a white museum. A museum of what, you ask? Well, just how the game was made. I thought this museum was really interesting. There are signs everywhere that tell you a different aspect of the game and how it was made. And when you exit, the female narrator tells you the only way to win is to quit. And you are teleported to being in the cart again, and you are literally on death row with the crusher. And then you die. A bummer. But the museum made me appreciate the game more. Honestly, I thought this game had an unreasonable price of $20, but after this ending, I think the price was only a little steep, because that museum was pretty cool. My personal favorite ending of the Stanley Parable is not only the most satisfying, but also the most ironic. For those familiar with this game, even if you haven't played it, you should be pretty familiar with the game if you made it this far in the video. But it's pretty known that this game is on at least 7 layers of irony. How to achieve this ending? Follow literally everything the narrator says. That's right, do everything the narrator tells you to do. Let him complete the story he mapped out for you. This ending is the most satisfying in the sense that you actually get true freedom. Once you turn off mind control, a giant garage opens up in front of you, revealing the open world. How is this ironic? Well, a big part of the narrator's story is for Stanley to escape from the mind control his boss set in place. But if you think about it, isn't the narrator telling Stanley exactly everything to do? That's pretty much mind control, right? But I don't care. I like this ending because you actually achieve what you want to accomplish, and that's pretty alright with me. Even the narrator's epilogue was soothing, and I recommend taking a listen because it actually calmed me. Here it is, uncut.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Well, that's it. At the time of writing the script, I have no idea how long this video will turn out to be, but I'm guessing it's long. So I'm willing to guess no one is at this point in the video, and that's okay. I could do without unconstructive criticism. But what's next? Well, there's a new thing I'd like to do. They will be easy to make, and I'm a little pumped to make a few more before my Every Blank Ranked. If you're still here, which game should I do an Every Blank Ranked on next? Another Lego game? Some other game? I can't wait to see 0 suggestions down below. But until next time, bon voyage, amigos.